Hi, I'm Justin.
Also, I hate the way my voice sounds, so if you can do whatever Photoshop does to voices, make me sound awesome.
And this is my lovely friend,
The beauty in the eyes of the beholder, and it's just about getting into the seat of being the beholder.
Hayley.
I don't think you have to be particularly perceptive. I just think you have to look up.
This podcast is mostly just her telling me stories.
If you expose yourself to the possibility that this might be really awkward, there can be something just really cool on the other side of it.
She thinks that her life and way of looking at things are
Oh, I was kind of waiting on you. I thought you were getting your stuff ready. You're waiting on me?
pretty normal.
You got to edit out all the misinformation about the Amish.
Maybe you can relate
I would like a chance to re-sing the Amish Paradise.
if you want lighthearted stories
All right, you want to talk about goats?
and stream of consciousness.
I just woke up and needed some friends, and so I bought them.
Then you're gonna like the Sunny Side Up podcast.
Sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up, sunny side up.
So, if you're at all like me, you may feel that you're living in a world that can be a bit overwhelming and confusing at times. I'm also a huge fan of podcasts, documentaries, docudramas, stories, and of just information in general. Between all of that and the social media and news, sometimes our brains can feel like they're on overload. Hayley and I hope that this podcast can be something of an antidote to all of that. Like little jello shots of joy and distraction. None of it is too serious or really too informative. Mostly it's just two friends who have conversational chemistry talking about whatever enters the minds of relatively ADHD people. We hope you enjoy.
I would love to know what the intellectual property rights will look like moving forward on kind of cornering the market of a likeness or anything that you might produce that resembles what I currently do. Like, ooh, that is way too indefinite.
Right. Well, so obviously the Hollywood strike last year was partly, if I caught it, was partly around the use of their writing, voice, whatever. Because so like ChatGPT, all the LLMs, large language model, like ChatGPT and Bard and all of these basically went into everything that's ever been written, everything that's ever been said and put on the internet and absorbed it, right? And so what the entertainment industry was saying, especially the minions, they were like, hey, listen, this is all of our work that you just absorbed. And you're not just going to come in here and take it, synthesize it, and now just push a button on, whatever the future of ChatGPT is or whatever, and have it just write scripts and then, actors take over their face and their voice and blah, blah, blah. So what's fascinating is I think a whole bunch of companies are suing those LLM companies like the ChatGPTs of the world for all the intellectual property of because the LLM literally has to source all of its information from the available body of work that's out there, much of which is still probably copyrighted.
Right.
And they did it without really telling anybody or paying anybody.
I've seen some of those lawsuits.
So it's going to be, obviously this is going to be such an interesting thing to look back on in 20 or 30 years. Yeah, it's a new frontier. We're literally breaking into a whole new world.
But China has never been a respecter of American copyrights.
No.
Or intellectual property rights at all. So it's kind of like we can battle it out in the United States, but that's not even where, why waste your money? Just go ahead and I have a friend and he's extremely brilliant and he designs things and he's looked into getting copyrights for some of his many really brilliant inventions, like a wheelchair that he can remotely operate through GPS and it's strong enough to bush hog his front yard. I may have told you about him before. He just comes up. He can solve any problem.
There's a mower out there right now, by the way. It's not, there's probably a bush hog version of this because a lot of the tractors are all remote control.
Yeah.
But there's a yard one that's complete. It's like a Zumba for your yard.
Yeah.
Roomba.
And this was a thing that he was coming up with 10 years ago, so it would have been at the forefront of technology. And I'm like, did you copyright this? He's like, there's no point because China's not going to respect it anyway. So I just put my plans on the internet where anybody could access it and build it if they wanted to.
Oh, my gosh.
You just had a good idea. I can see it in your face.
You keep talking, but do not let me forget about the my documentary I watched with David, I think it was something Greer, The Next 100 Years, but it's about putting things in the internet.
Okay.
I'm going to pinpoint it. Keep going.
Well, when you said pin, it just reminded me of my final thing in my list about Taylor Swift Symposium. A pen and an old napkin, the literary tools of Taylor Swift, or literary tools through the eras. And we could let the English instructor speak to that. But those are good topics, right?
Those are great
And
topics. Okay, let's do
for the uninitiated, each of those was a Taylor Swift song and with a little subtitle there. So it's catchy, it's relevant. But I think it would work because even this year, she's like Times Person of the Year. So now everybody is like, oh, she's a big deal. But right before that, one of the big newspaper publishing houses, is it Gannett? I forget which one. But they hired a reporter specifically designated to Taylor Swift. Like, she is their entire beat.
I could see
that. Like, other reporters get the Middle East or American politics in general. He is specifically,
Love it.
And he is both a Swiftie and a legitimate journalist.
What a cool gig.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I wonder if we could maybe even like reach out to him and see if it'd be like getting a celebrity comment. But I'm ambitious about this thing that's not even on the books yet. All I've been told is, fine, we'll do it. But,
now
but if it comes together, I'm ready.
Great.
Don't you think?
Well, of course, because you're tapping into the zeitgeist and like we were talking earlier off mic around the table, but you were like, when you're trying to convert me to be a Swiftie, essentially, however big she was, filling stadiums and all that, until 2023, she was definitely top of their game and all stuff, but like something magical happened in 23 that I don't understand.
That's it. And I think that's where we're all at. Like, she was, sure, she was good. She was a pop star. She was one of many pop stars.
She was one of many pop stars,
All of a sudden,
there was an emergence.
Something's different.
Yeah.
And I think it would be fun to take this generation of kids and say, hey, instead of having a symposium about some topic that has plagued us or some other unprecedented event that y'all have lived through, that we've discussed on the news or whatever, let's celebrate something. And this
do for me real quick, let's go through, because the way it's going to be broken up in the podcast, this conversation will be, well, it'll be multiple podcasts. Run through that list. We won't make too many comments. Run through the list, each one, and the brief little and this will be about this.
Of my titles?
Yeah, your titles. And
none of it has been approved. So disclaimer there, this may not even happen.
This is the back of the napkin stuff right now.
Yeah, but if it comes together, some of our featured discussions of the symposium would be the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now, the reinventions of Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Long live a predictive analysis of Taylor Swift's historical legacy.
Okay, wait.
That's a pop culture, like a...
Go back to the first one. That would be headed by someone. What's like the point of the Taylor can't come to the phone right now? What is who would head it up? What's sort of
the reinvention of Taylor Swift would be well addressed by somebody from the music department, because they already have a class on like pop music or the history of music or whatever. And what she's doing is reinventing herself in new genres, and why? Because she's got interviews out there discussing why she felt like she had to stay a step ahead of the curve before they cancel her, because women will age out of an industry faster.
Fair.
So that one probably a music department.
Okay, so second one,
the predictive analysis of Taylor Swift's historical legacy. I think you could invite a history teacher to speak to that topic, because what we're looking at is, how deep is this legacy footprint?
Right, flash in the pan, or like... Right,
exactly. Where does she stand in the grand scheme of things? And it's contemporary history, but I think you could still lump it under history. The man, a swift look at Taylor as a feminist. I would probably recruit somebody from the sociology department.
Brilliant.
But you could even have a couple, because as you've mentioned, there's different flavors of feminism, and we could have them speak to it. It could be a debate. Karma is a contract. Extra legal remedies and remuneration. I would probably paralegal studies or business law. Business law would be great if you could have somebody just kind of speak to, here's some creative approaches that she's brought to the industry. And then the pen and an old napkin, literary tools through the eras, English department.
You know what?
And also friendship bracelets that have the school colors, but friendship bracelets are such a big thing this year. Like, the merch for this would be so easy to...
Girl, please record this, and if nothing else, your YouTube is going to get some hits. But I
should start a TikTok.
There's something in this.
I feel like it. And here's the other thing. I thought it was a great idea. We need to do it. And then you start looking online. We're not even original. Other colleges already offer classes, and there's a wait list to get into the classes that are specifically Taylor Swift. There's been one or two, but the first ever convention that we know of is scheduled, or according to the organizer, it's the first. She may just be imagining that she's the first, but it's scheduled for New Orleans ahead of the concert date this coming October. Did not intend to go on a Taylor Swift deep dive, but that's almost an entire season of podcast episodes just talking about the topic that neither of us were that interested in to begin with.
Don't underplay your interest in T Swift. Own it. Like,
if they do let us do the symposium, it would happen this spring possibly, and therefore it would actually probably be out before this airs, and I'd be like, oh, that's old news.
Yeah, I know. That's always the tricky part when you're recording and then releasing months later. You're like, everything is old news. But hey.
When we listen back to it, I always hear things that I'm like, ooh, I need to address this because I was wrong, or I need to address this because it was incomplete. And it's funny how often I'll hear myself talking about something, and I'll think, because I've forgotten the conversations by the time I listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, I bet this is what I say next. And then I do not even go that way. And I was like, logically, why is that not what I spoke about next? I can't believe I missed a chance to discuss this. Why did this not come up?
Amazing.
Like, I have a note in my phone that says, make sure you correct something that we said in the past about, I don't even know what we were talking about because the note I've already forgotten, but it just says, make a note that the United States drew a lot of inspiration from the Iroquois Confederacy in drafting our Constitution and using a democratic structure. Like, that's,
wow.
I mean, Benjamin Franklin even invited some of the Iroquois leaders to the Constitutional Convention to help us.
Wow, I didn't know that.
To draft, they have the longest standing, like, democratically shaped constitutional structure in the world, I think.
Really? The Iroquois? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, thank you. And I didn't know about this until I was getting my notes together for this government class, and then I see it. I'm like, how was I a history major and a political science master's student and a law student, and I've never even come across this information? But it's not hidden. You don't have to look far on the internet to find validation. But I don't know what episode of our podcast we would have even been speaking to that topic.
I know. Nothing's ringing any bells.
I just had a note in my phone that said, you need to correct this because we did use their influence. So apologies to the indigenous population. Like, you absolutely should get credit for the direct influence of the American Constitution.
Wow.
The good parts.
Hello, lovely friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And it would mean the world if you would tell other people about this podcast and maybe even spam your social media accounts with just how much you're enjoying it. If you are, of course. Also, commenting and rating us on whatever platform you're downloading or streaming from is incredibly helpful to a little startup podcast like this one. On the other hand, if you are dissatisfied with your listening experience, please leave all of that hate on someone else's podcast. Just maybe to confuse them a little bit, right? But most of all, we hope you keep looking up and looking for the sunny side of life.